Forza 5 has been announced for PlayStation, and it's now topping the pre-order charts on PSN in multiple territories. And the Xbox enthusiasts, some of them who are unable to let go of the format wars, they're celebrating this as a win for Microsoft. The thing is, a win for Microsoft is not the same as a win for Xbox. And I'm going to tell you why this pre-order sales success on PlayStation could actually do more harm than good for the Xbox console and also Game Pass.
Pre-order today. Pony up
Pony up.
for Forza Horizon 5. 4-year-old game at full price.
Is this the same one that they got there for $79.99? I said yes, bro.
Are they selling that for $80 over there?
Oh, we gonna talk. We gonna talk.
I'm not saying that console wars are over because the PS5 sold 75 million consoles. No.
Microsoft is going to be assessing two key bits of data. Now, the first is how well games sell on PlayStation. And of course, it's already got some feedback. It's already got some information about how well Sea of Thieves has done and those other initial games. But Forza 5 is one of Microsoft's flagship titles. It's a 3.5-year-old game. So that might make some people think, okay, it's not going to do so well. But as we've seen with these pre-orders topping the charts, it's doing really well. So what Microsoft is trying to find out is just how profitable can a game be when it's released on PlayStation. And I suspect with Forza 5, it's going to find out that this game is going to be very profitable. The indications are good already. And on top of that, it's going to be comparing those sales figures to the sales figures when it was released on Xbox Series X and S. And of course, because it was released on Game Pass as well for those consoles, the sales were not likely to have been as high as if it had just been released on as a product release on digital and disc. So if Microsoft sees that the game has sold significantly more copies on PlayStation than it did on Xbox, the meaning it's going to take away from that is that PS5 owners are willing to pay for games. The second bit of information that Microsoft is going to be examining is the sales of Call of Duty Black Ops 6. This game is really significant because it is a high-profile AAA game, and it's the first time one of these Call of Duty games has been included with Game Pass. Now, I haven't played it, but I've heard that it's a return to form. The reviews were very positive in comparison to the version that was released the year before. And so Phil Spencer, he agreed, or he decided that this game should be included Game Pass day one so that Xbox owners with Game Pass, they could play it with no extra cost. So how did that affect sales? What we know is that sales of the game on PS5 were 30% up from the Call of Duty the year before. It's a big increase. And when it comes to Xbox, we know that sales were 67% down from the year before. This is an absolute collapse in sales. So, of course, by giving the game away free with its subscription service, it would have an effect on the physical and digital sales. Of course it would. But then the benefits of giving it away with Game Pass is that hopefully it means that a whole lot more new people are going to subscribe to Game Pass. Now, what are the figures of new subscribers? There aren't actually any figures. Whilst the games media celebrated this as a massive win for Game Pass, all we actually know is that Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, he said the release of Call of Duty, it had the highest new subscribers on a single day. And so that's obviously a positive, but it could have been maybe 5 more than the Starfield release. It could have been maybe 10 more. I'm sure it was a lot more, but without an actual number, there's no tangible figure with that. It's good if it got a whole lot of new subscribers to Game Pass. That's great. But then are those subscribers, are they going to then subscribe the following month and then the following month? Or will they have clocked the game, completed it, and then decide to not renew their subscription? We don't know that. It might be that the people who traditionally buy Call of Duty on Xbox are the most engaged, and so they have Game Pass anyway. So by Microsoft giving away the game free with Game Pass, it now means those people who are going to buy the game, they now didn't spend that money on the game. And Microsoft has effectively given away that money for free. The meaning Microsoft will take away from that is that brand new AAA games released day one on Game Pass is losing them money. It's losing them money where people would have then gone and spent that money on buying the games themselves. Right, so with this information, how could this affect the Xbox console platform? Well, the first thing is if PlayStation units of games sell the most on PlayStation and in comparison to Xbox, and it's significantly profitable for Microsoft, it's inevitable that Microsoft is going to decide that it has to prioritize development for PlayStation. Because if a game is released on PlayStation, which is invested significantly in development, and it gets bad reviews on PlayStation, but for example, it's not optimized well, then that's all that lost revenue from bad reviews and bad player feedback. So Microsoft is going to prioritize PlayStation and make sure PlayStation versions of games work well, play well, and that they deliver a great experience. And if Microsoft is doing that, it's conceivable that it might make PS5 the lead platform. And even if it doesn't, it could mean that not as much time is spent on the Xbox platforms, optimizing them, making sure they work well, and maybe taking advantage of little features that you get on the Xbox menus. And this could lead to less attention and investment in Xbox specific features and optimizations. The other aspect is that PS5 becomes the best place to play Xbox games. Seems quite strange when you think about it. But if Microsoft is generating most revenue from PlayStation games, it's then going to take advantage of PlayStation features, which they are mandated by Sony. For example, the 100% uh, trophy, the Platinum trophy, every PlayStation offers that for every game. There's not a similar feature on Xbox. On top of that, you've got the DualSense trigger support. These are unique features that are not available on other consoles. And then if you have a PS5 Pro, it's going to offer that improvement in graphics. And so anybody who wants to play an Xbox game, if they want the best version, the one that looks the best, it's going to be on PlayStation. Now, there will be some fallout from that. Inevitably, there's going to be a reaction to that. That means, for example, people who are multi console owners, people who own at least two platforms, if they want the best version and they, let's say it's an Xbox player and they love Xbox the most, but they want the best version, I definitely prefer a best version. They will then maybe decide to buy the PlayStation version. And over time, it's going to become known as this message disseminates across the gaming world that PlayStation offers the best version. And the slow effect of that is going to be that Xbox console sales, which are already in decline, are likely to decline more. And there's going to be a shift towards PlayStation. And Microsoft seeing that, it's going to just be like a self fulfilling prophecy, a self fulfilling circle, however you want to call it, in that Microsoft is going to see the drop in Xbox sales and the increase in PlayStation. And again, it's just going to increase that concentration on PlayStation and making the PS5 version the best place to play. New Xbox console hardware could become less important to Microsoft. Now, if it sees that console hardware is significantly falling in terms of sales, it realizes it's becoming less important to it. Is the investment worth it? Because releasing a new console, there is a whole lot of investment that comes with that. There is the R&D, and then there is the actual production, and then the release around the world. Can we really say that the next Xbox, the way we see the market at the moment, is going to perform better than the Xbox Series does? And at the moment, we can't say it will. It might be that it performs less well. And if that's the case, what should Microsoft do? It may then decide that its next console is only going to be a niche machine. And what I mean by that is it might decide to not release it in stores and make it purely for enthusiasts. So it could become like the Valve Steam Deck, which has a limited release. It's only available mail order. And the enthusiasts are loving it. They enjoy it, they buy it, but it's only sold 4 million units. And you've also had Peter Moore, the former head of Xbox, recently in an interview with Gamertag Radio, and he told them he suspects that Microsoft would be much happier not having console hardware and just being able to sell to people. So, a future console, Xbox console, might be fan service only, as in an enthusiast only machine available in limited numbers. Or it might become a cloud only platform. That's not good either. And Microsoft might decide to sell cloud sticks like the Fire TV stick. Or even worse, Microsoft might decide to pull the plug completely and think it's just not worth it. Let's just release games on other platforms. Microsoft having game sales success on PS5 could also be bad news for Game Pass. Might reevaluate day one releases of AAA games on Game Pass. So if you've got Forza 5 and the pre-orders, there's three different versions of it. There's the standard, which is about £60, $60, and the premium version, which has all the DLC, is approximately £90, $90. And apparently, what's crazy to me is that the premium version is the one that has been pre-ordered the most. There is clearly an appetite for this game. And if this appetite for this game can continue after it's been released, that's going to be really significant to Microsoft. So, what it might determine is that releasing a game on day one on Game Pass for Xbox users is just going to be losing money. It's just a waste of money. And it's going to compare that to the money it makes from PlayStation owners. So what Microsoft might then decide to do is stagger the release on Game Pass. So it will release on day one, or new game might release on day one as a digital or physical release. And then the Game Pass release might not come out until, say, 1 month later or even 3 months later. And that's definitely going to have an effect on Game Pass. And then if you're going to have, there's no longer going to be day one releases, then some people will choose to not subscribe. And before you might say Microsoft is not going to change Game Pass, it would never do that. It's already raised prices, which is fair enough. And it's already actually changed the level of games that you can get with each tier of the service. So it could happen. And then if you compare it, if Microsoft has got the figures of how Call of Duty suffered on Xbox, it may then decide that, for example, with the next Call of Duty, why release it for free on Game Pass? Better to then release it 1 month later. So the people who really want it on Xbox, they will go to the shops or the digital store and buy it day one. The perception of the value of Game Pass could decline. So if PlayStation owners, they're getting the best version of the game, and let's say Microsoft does decide to remove games from having a day one release, new games from having a day one release, well, as a Game Pass subscriber, you might decide, you know what, it's not offering as much as it did before. And if that happens, subscriber numbers will drop. And Microsoft may then determine that it's not working for it. It's not working as well for it. And eventually it could lead to the decline of Game Pass because a subscription service like that, like Netflix, it really works and it can be really profitable when you have the highest number of subscribers, obviously. But if numbers are declining, it's just not going to be worth it. So I thought I'd share my thoughts because what I thought is really interesting is I understand that people can have a preference for their favorite console and people may prefer the PlayStation or the Xbox. So with these Xbox influencers who are cheerleading Microsoft making money from PlayStation, I think they're a little bit short-sighted because they don't understand the ramifications that ultimately it will be leading to the decline of the Xbox console sooner rather than later.